Sable pressed her palm against the third bottle before she understood what she was touching. Inside the glass, a boy pounded his small fists against a locked door that was not a door at all. Only glass, only memory, only a room built from someone else's need. He had Calum's eyes. The Alpha King stood 3 feet away, tall and hollow-cheeked, 7 years without sleep carved into every line of his face. Court nobles had already started laughing at her before she opened anything. They called her the Nightmare Girl, the Market Rat, the useful filth who smelled of broken sleep. Calum had looked at her only once, and even that look had been an order. Do not let her touch anything that still belongs to a living mind. Sable had lowered her eyes and reached for the bottle anyway, because someone had to check the batch, and no one else in that glittering room would dare put their hands where the truth was kept. The first bottle held a rogue child's nightmare, restless and small. The second held a servant mother's lullaby, sweetened and sold. The third held him. The boy inside beat his palm against the curved glass and called a single word into the dark. Mother. Sable's breath caught. She had spent her whole life reading dreams the way other people read faces, and this dream did not belong to any debtor, any orphan, any nameless wolf who had traded sleep for survival. This dream was not bought from your enemies. It was cut out of you. Calum crossed the space between them in 2 strides, his voice low and dangerous. What did you say? Sable lifted the bottle so the candlelight caught the boy's frightened face. Your court has been feeding you medicine made from stolen sleep, and one of the dreams keeping you awake is your own childhood begging to be returned. The court went silent. Somewhere behind that silence, a curse older than the throne itself began quietly to remember. Sable had grown up inside the dream market, long before she understood what it truly was. Her hands had learned to sort bottles before they learned to write her own name. She labeled nightmares by the hour they arrived. She counted how many times a harvested child cried in their sleep before the memory was finally pulled free. Nobles called her cursed. Others called her useful filth, a girl who carried the smell of broken sleep on her skin. Her mother, Nara Nocturne, had once sold 3 years of dreams to buy medicine for Sable's younger brother. Afterward, Nara could still remember her son's face. She could no longer remember the sound of her own voice singing him to sleep. Sable had been 11 when she made the same trade. She sold the sweetest dream she owned, a small room with a window, her mother's arms, a lullaby shared between them. She kept the memory of being loved. She lost the feeling of it. They did not steal my sleep first. They stole the place inside it where I still felt loved. She did not hate dreams. She hated what the rich had built out of other people's hunger, calling luxury what should have been left alone. Calum Vare had not slept in 7 years. Not truly, not the way a body was meant to rest. If his wolf slipped into deep sleep, an old prophecy threatened to wake inside him, and the kingdom's stability along with it. Royal dream physician Lord Errand Vale prescribed a vial each morning, drawn from the market Sable had grown up inside. Court poets called Calum the sleepless wolf, the king who never rested for his people. No one asked what his medicine was made from. Every night, stolen voices whispered low in his throat as the dose wore thin. He called it duty. A king does not have the luxury of sleep. Sable would answer him later, though not yet. Then stop buying it from children who never had luxury at all. For now, Calum only knew that a nightmare girl from the market had reached into his private grief and pulled out something he had never let himself see. Her curse was not loud or theatrical. It showed itself in small, undeniable ways. a stolen dream bottle would frost over from the inside. As though something trapped there was still cold with fear. A false debt contract would crumble to silver dust the moment a false signature was tested. When a child's memory was harvested somewhere in the city, Sable lost her own sleep that same night, without knowing why until morning. When Calum drank his medicine, the stolen dreams inside it whispered against his throat like something struggling to be heard. The childhood bottle had not glowed the way ordinary dreams did. It had knocked softly from the inside like a child asking to be let out. Her curse did not create nightmares. It remembered who had been forced to carry them. The market called every transaction a fair trade. Sable knew better. A dream sold by hunger was not consent. It was poverty wearing a signature. Madame Vesper Nix owned the dream market the way some women owned a room, simply by entering it. She was beautiful in a way that felt calculated. Her voice soft enough to lull a struggling debtor into signing before they understood what they had lost. She did not think of herself as cruel. No one steals what desperation offers with both hands. To her, poverty was simply the price of admission, and she was only the merchant standing at the door. A hungry child signs more honestly than a noble with 10 lawyers. She watched Sable the way a collector watches an unclaimed piece, and she watched Calum the way a merchant watches her best customer, unaware that the product keeping him alive was slowly becoming evidence against her. Calum pulled Sable out of the dream chamber that same night, his patience thinning. He told her that if he slept fully, the old prophecy inside him might wake, and the borders his wolves guarded would weaken within days. Sable did not flinch. A kingdom that needs children's dreams to keep one man standing is already asleep. His jaw tightened. He told her she did not understand what the crown demanded of him. Duty does not become holy because someone else pays its price. He did not drink his next vial that night. It was a small thing, barely noticeable, except that Sable noticed everything about dreams, and she felt the shift like a held breath finally released. Sable knew a child named Mira Thorne, a small dream runner who had once seen a royal bottle carried out of the palace archive and down into the market's lower vaults. Mira had seen the boy inside it before Sable ever touched the bottle herself. Afraid that Vesper would harvest a witness that dangerous, Sable hid her in an abandoned sleep ward at the edge of the district, believing silence would keep the child safe. Vesper found her anyway. Mira was taken back into the market's lower rooms, and her memory of that night was harvested before Sable could stop it, leaving the girl with only fragments of what she had witnessed. Calum, hearing of a child witness who suddenly could not fully remember her own testimony, suspected Sable of inventing the story to manipulate him. When Sable finally found Mira afterward, thin and shaking in the market's holding cell, the girl did not thank her for trying to protect her. "You tried to save my dream by hiding my name, but a hidden dream still belongs to the market if no one wakes up for it." Sable had no answer for that. She understood, too late, that dreams could not survive in silence. They needed an owner willing to claim them, a witness willing to speak, and a truth willing to be seen in daylight, not tucked away in someone's careful protection. Calum ordered a full audit of the palace's dream medicine records, more out of frustration with Sable than genuine doubt. The ledgers were thorough in every way that mattered to a court. Batches of dream medicine, sleep efficiency reports, border watch hours logged beside his sleepless nights, prophecy delay charts stamped and signed by Lord Errand himself. Nowhere in those pages was there a name. No record of the children whose dreams filled his vials. No mention of mothers who forgot their own lullabies, or rogue wolves who traded away their memories of running free just to afford a burial for someone they loved. Sable took him to see them herself. Nara no longer remembered the tune she once sang to her children, only that she had sung something once before it was gone. Rowan Thorne, Mira's father, had signed a debt contract to save his wife's life, not understanding that the payment would eventually reach into his daughter's mind as well. A rogue boy near the outer wall no longer dreamed of running, because that dream had been bottled to keep a king alert on nights the boy would never know about. Calum stood among them, silent, the weight of every unread ledger pressing down harder than any prophecy ever had. His court had recorded every hour the king stayed awake. It had never recorded who had been forced to dream in his place. Lord Arundvale did not think of himself as a villain either. He believed, with the calm certainty of a man who had never gone hungry, that a single vigilant ruler could protect more lives than the dreams it cost to keep him standing. One king awake can guard 1,000,000 sleepers. Sable met his reasoning without flinching. Not if the 1,000,000 are the ones being emptied to keep him standing. Aaron's records referred to the harvested children only as low-impact extraction, tidy words dressed up to hide what they actually meant, and Calum began to understand. That cruelty rarely announced itself. Sometimes it simply filed paperwork. Vesper offered Calum a compromise before the audit could go any further, meeting him privately beneath the market's dim chandelier light. If he opened the childhood bottle, she warned, the old prophecy might finally wake inside him. His enemies would learn his deepest weakness, and the entire structure keeping the crown stable could collapse in a single night. Instead, she proposed to let the matter rest. Seal the bottle, give Sable a royal title, Dream Reader to the Crown, a prettier name for the same work she had always done. Continue the market, she said, only with reforms soft enough not to threaten her profits. Let the nightmare girl be honored. Let the king remain awake. Sable did not need long to answer her. A title that asks me to keep children asleep inside bottles is only a prettier cage. To break the seal on the truth, Sable needed more than her own certainty. She needed witnesses, real and unafraid, forming what she began to call the stolen dream chain. Link after link of testimony no single voice could carry alone. Her own curse marked the beginning. Mira's damaged but still present memory came next, fragile as it was. Nara's lullaby, the fragment she still remembered, added its small, aching weight. Rowan's signed debt contract followed, then Aaron's own dosage ledgers, then old archivist Pell's record of the night the royal bottle first left the palace vault. A dream named by one nightmare girl could be called delusion. A dream returned by witnesses became a memory no market could price. Sable began by going back to Mira, admitting aloud what she had done, the hiding, the silence, the mistake dressed up as protection. Mira did not forgive her right away. Her trust had been broken, and it would take more than an apology to mend it. But her fractured memory still stood as proof, and proof was what the chain required most. When the chain finally opened its last link, the truth beneath it was worse than either of them expected. As a child, Calum had dreamed prophetic dreams of his own, visions of a council that would one day drain the sleep of ordinary children just to keep a future king alert on his throne. His mother had tried to stop it before it could ever begin. Instead, the royal council overruled her, and Lord Aaron's predecessors cut the prophecy itself out of young Calum's mind, sealing it inside a bottle Vesper would later claim as her own. From that night forward, he could never sleep the way other wolves slept. The medicine had never simply kept him awake. It had kept him from remembering. Your childhood was not lost. It was stored where hungry people were taught to sell pieces of themselves. Caleb's voice, when it finally came, was rough with something closer to grief than anger. I did not steal every dream, but I swallowed them and called it duty. Vesper moved quickly once she realized the chain was closing around her. She opened one final auction inside the market's grand hall, offering Caleb's childhood bottle to a foreign ruler named Rauk, a rival alpha eager to learn every weakness hidden inside the nocturne crown. If the bottle sold, Caleb's most vulnerable memory would become a weapon in another kingdom's hands. Mira's testimony would be erased entirely from the official record, and the market itself would remain untouched behind layers of new, meaningless reform. Caleb wanted to burn the market to the ground rather than let that happen. Sable stopped him before he could. If the building fell, every bottled dream inside would shatter with it, and the people who owned those stolen memories might never get them back, not even in pieces. What they needed instead was a public reckoning. A dream returned in front of witnesses who could never again pretend not to have seen it. Caleb asked her quietly, before they walked into the auction hall together, what she heard when she touched the bottle now. I hear a child asking to stop keeping a king awake. The auction hall glittered with captured light, hundreds of bottled dreams glowing like small, trapped stars along the vaulted ceiling. Vesper stood at the center of it all, accusing Sable openly of nightmare contamination, of poisoning the sale with lies meant to protect a broken king. Rock raised his final bid, and the ownership seal on Caleb's childhood bottle began, slowly, to shift. Mira's damaged dream flickered weakly in its glass case nearby. Somewhere in the crowd, Nara forgot one more note of the lullaby she had only just started to remember. Sable opened the stolen dream chain in front of the entire hall. Nara hummed the fragment she still held. Rowan read his debt contract aloud, his voice shaking but steady enough to be heard. Aaron's own ledgers were unsealed and displayed for every noble present. Archivist Pell stepped forward with the transfer note that proved exactly when and how the bottle had left royal hands. Caleb pressed his breath against the glass, but Vesper moved faster than any of them expected. She cracked the ownership seal herself, and the boy inside began to fade at the edges, as though the memory itself might dissolve before anyone could claim it. Caleb staggered, his knees buckling as the old prophecy began to surface at last, dragging him toward a sleep none of them could stop. The court around them broke into panic. A dream is only sacred until someone is desperate enough to price it. Sable did not look away from her. Then tonight we stop calling hunger consent. As Caleb sank further, he heard names rising through the noise. Mira's, Nara's, Rowan's, the rogue boys, every dream that had ever been spent to keep him standing. For one unbearable breath, Sable could not tell whether the child crying behind her own eyes was Caleb or Mira, or the part of herself she had sold away long ago just to survive the market. Caleb had one choice left to make, sleepless and stable, or awake and changed forever by what he remembered. I choose the dream that lets me remember what my crown has cost. The bottle broke open at last. His childhood returned to him all at once, pain and truth together, inseparable. He collapsed, but this time into something that was finally truly his own. The market's ownership seals cracked one by one across the hall, as though the whole building had been holding its breath for years, and had only just remembered how to exhale. When Caleb woke, he did not blame only Vesper, or only Arind, or the council that had come before him. He stood before the full court, hollow-eyed but clearer than he had been in 7 years, and he did not soften what he had to say. I did not steal every dream, but I swallowed them and called it duty. He said Mira Thorne's name aloud, and Nara Nocturnes and Rowan Thorns, and the names of dream runners no noble had ever bothered to learn. He dissolved every debt contract built on stolen sleep. He freed every dream runner still held inside the market's lower vaults. He ordered every remaining bottle reviewed, and, wherever possible, returned to the people who had dreamed them first. He stripped Lord Errand of his royal title, and had Madame Vesper Nix arrested before she could vanish into the crowd she had once controlled so easily. He built public sleep wards where none had existed before, and when advisors suggested naming Sable, his personal royal healer, the woman who had finally let him rest, he refused. Sable did not forgive anyone on the victim's behalf, and she made certain the court understood that forgiveness was not hers to give away. The kingdom needed more than an apology, so Calum signed the Free Sleep Covenant before the full court. 5 conditions carved into law where careless custom had once ruled. No child's dream could ever again be sold, harvested, bottled, or transferred. No poverty debt could be paid with memory, nightmare, or childhood. Every dream medicine had to disclose its true source and true consent. No dream runner's testimony could be dismissed simply because of their standing in the market, and no royal sleep could ever again be purchased with someone else's stolen rest. No kingdom shall stay awake by stealing the sleep of its children. Sable was named Keeper of Stolen Dreams, not because Calum chose her, and not because she had cured his sleeplessness. The kingdom needed someone who would always ask whose dream this truly was, and who would never again let a price outweigh the person who had dreamed it. Weeks later, Calum found her in the quiet of the sleep garden, away from the court, away from vials, away from everything the market had once made of them both. "What do I look like when I sleep? Afraid." He nodded slowly, as though he had expected exactly that answer. "And when I wake?" Responsible, he did not reach for her. He did not call her his Luna, or speak of bonds neither of them had asked for. "I will not make you the dream that keeps me alive." Good, I am not medicine for a king. A month passed, and the market that once traded in stolen sleep became known instead as the Free Sleep Hall. Its bottles opened only under the careful eyes of witnesses who could never again look away. Nara hummed a little more of her lullaby each week, the notes returning to her slowly, unbought. Mira slept without chains for the first time since anyone could remember. Rowan signed no more debt contracts, and the children's sleep wards stood guarded, day and night, by people who finally understood what they were protecting. Calum slept a little each night now, unaided, unmedicated, learning what rest without theft actually felt like. Sable sat at the witness bench inside the Free Sleep Hall, watching over what remained. A small child once approached her, uncertain, and asked whether a souled dream still belonged to the one who had dreamed it. No one should have to sell the place where they are safe. The court had once called her Nightmare Girl because she carried the dreams no one wanted to confess buying. But under Sable's watch, Nocturne Kingdom learned that sleep was not weakness. It was a home inside the self, and no crown, no debt, no market had the right to lock a child outside that door and call the bottle medicine.